years ago today. To reflect on his legacy, we joined in the studio by historian Professor Pitika Ntuli. Prof, good morning again. Thank you very much for coming in.
Dan, and also to the viewers.
Well, yeah, not an easy time for the Hani family, obviously, at this time of the year when we remember Chris Hani. But, I mean, he was really a leader. And you hear all kinds of commentators every time how disciplined he was, how courageous he was. For you, what stands out about Chris Hani?
The guy was very, very, very humorous and a very warm person, a real dedicated communist in the true sense of the word. The one who put the collective good above the other good. Even when he came out, he said, this is not about government pacts and cabinet positions, but the continuation of the struggle so that the gap between the rich and the poor is reduced.
In fact, he had already publicly, I think, he had said that he won't serve in the first cabinet. He'd rather remain as leading the Communist Party and being on the ground and being close to the people.
Yes, I think what he hated more than anything was an issue of individualism, where we put ourselves, before other people, and he always returned whenever, because we were in London at the time when London, what today is called Black British Cultural Renaissance, with the Ben Okris who are in the countries here, and then when he comes actually through. Then we had all of this kind of discussion. That's a cross-political kind of discussion.
So he was interested in the work of art.
Yeah, he was interested in the works of art in himself. He was talking a lot about more of collective memorials and collective monuments rather than the individualization of people to the exclusion of other people. And
you experienced personally the warmth of his humanity.
Yeah, the warmth is humanity. Together with the guy in Pretoria today, Jabu Mahlang was one of the youth in the ANC. We're entrusted to do a program for all the diplomats, in London, to do a cultural program for him, the poetry, and showing, some art to commemorate his death, so that we gave it a whole kind of rounded rather than a mere slanted political view.
How should South Africa remember Chris Hani?
I think people should remember, Chris Hani by asking ourselves, questions. Are we putting the interest of the nation and the people ahead of ourselves, or are we, pushing the interest of the people? Now, today, yes, Chris Hani, at the time of the statue wars, as a communist, what Chris Hani always said, he hated monopoly capitalism. Who represented monopoly capitalism in Africa? It was Cecil John Rhodes. So it's very ironic that the statue just goes a day actually before, as if he had willed the disappearance of that statue. But I know in his mind, he would very much would have loved that more collective monuments can be done, rather than saying get rid of the Paul Kruger. Whenever to me says to be Mandela, I can't think of Mandela outside Govan Mbeki, outside Mtswaledi, outside Lillian Goy, outside those generation of people. We should be shifting from individuals to commemorative things, which is truthful of African sentiment.
Is a collectivism, a communalism of approach the best way for us to honor our struggle heroes like Chris Hani?
I see no other way. Now, you and I, we are going up on a mission. Me, I am clever enough to avoid being captured. You are captured, you are shot, and you get a statue. Me, who avoided that thing, I don't. So you can't talk about Solomon Mahlangu without talking about the people he trained with, the people he was with, the people he actually moved around. The statue is fine, but where do we situate some of those people who are actually there with him? So the communal way of actually commemorating our people is one that could reflect, truly our old African indigenous sentiments.
Prof, thanks for your reflections on Chris Hani and his legacy and what we should be doing to honor him. I can't let you go before we finish this without asking about what's been happening at the University of Cape Town. You yourself have raised the issue of the statues as an example of what's going on. You are a professor, you're an academic person. Yes, you're a sculptor, you're a poet. You've taught in universities in many parts of the world, overseas, before you came back when you were in exile. You've been involved with universities here in South Africa. When you came back from exile, you were involved in a number of them. Currently, still involved with the University of Johannesburg. What is your view on what needs to be done? Everybody's been saying the Cecil John Rhodes statue is just a symbol of lack of transformation that has not been addressed over time. You hear people pointing out to academic staff is not transformed. Some people talk about the culture of institutions is not transformed. What is your view as an academic about the state of our universities and what can be done to move us forward to really change? Because they are the centers of discourse. They should be the centers of leading us into the new way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's very sad to talk about South African universities. We always positioned us as the University of African Scholarship, a university in an African actually city. And yet these universities don't reflect, Africa at all. We arrive at a position in which colonialism is destroyed, but coloniality, the state of mind that coloniality has imprinted on our minds still exists. The denial of our languages, the access into the university, the success after that kind of an access, this continuous discontinuity that is taking place. We have to rethink, because when we merge the universities, we had the golden opportunity to reinvent our universities. But instead, we kept on peddling our universities in the line of Oxford and Cambridge.
Who should be leading that transformation? We've seen now what people are calling the re-emergence of student activism, as we've seen at the University of Cape Town. Who should be leading this change that you are talking about?
I think the students are beginning to lead that change. They've identified the lack of transformation that is in there. They are sitting there and they are now actually pushing. They are taking the agenda. They are seeming to say that this is our future and we need to take our future in hand. The June 76, the generation of Lembede, it brought about the programs of action to free Africa. The generation of Mandela defied unjust laws. The generation of Sobukwe conquered the fear of prison. The generation of 1976 conquered the fear of death. The generation of the 1980s rendered the government ungovernable. The generation of the 90s and the 21st century, one is beginning to wonder, but with what is emerging out of Cape Town and everywhere else, you begin to feel students flexing their muscles for their future.
Thank you very much, Professor. That's historian Professor P.T. Kantuli.